Gents, happy Friday. Look, if you're passionate about something, there is a way that you can turn that thing into some dough. And today's guest is going to help us tell us how he did that exactly. So here we go, ladies and gents. Let's start off today's show. Let's do this.
Shut up and sit down.
Look, a business can give you everything you want in life: prestige, wealth, freedom. It can also take everything away from you. This show is for those who are willing to take that risk. These are the real life stories of entrepreneurs. But before we start, I have one small favor to ask. Please leave a comment. It can be advice, critiques, tips, feedback, or share this with someone, because your engagement is the most valuable and most powerful form of social currency. So thank you, and welcome to another episode of Business Bros. Ooh, all right, ladies and gents, fire time. All right, here's the thing. Discipline is the key to your success. I mean, if you're waiting until you feel motivated to do something, chances are you're never gonna actually do it. Now, martial arts helps to develop discipline and patience, and today's guest has taken his passion of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and turned it into a successful business. And not just his own martial arts school, but he's helped other martial arts school owners grow their business with the tools that they developed. Now let's welcome to the show from redbeltsoftware.com, Brian Debes. Welcome to the show, my friend. What do you think so far?
Man, you've got a great setup here. I wasn't expecting all the everything's popping up every couple of seconds. I'm fired up. Appreciate
That's what I'm talking about, man. I told you. I was like, we're going to do this energetic, man. We're going to be talking about what you do here on the show and having some fun doing it. All right, look, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I'm going to, full disclosure, I've never done any kind of martial arts in my life, but I definitely have some buddies that are all about jiu-jitsu. Like, they live, breathe, and like this is all they do. And I love the camaraderie that they have in the groups. I love the training that they've done. I've rolled around a little bit with some of those guys, and I'm like, hell no, I'm not doing that on the bat. But tell me a little bit about why jiu-jitsu is like such a passion for you.
Yeah, so I was the opposite of who you would think would get into martial arts and jiu-jitsu. I was diagnosed with a motor skill disability when I was a child. I went into high school at 60 pounds. I was bullied like all the time. I would say probably not a week would go by that I wouldn't experience some form of physical violence. And by that, I mean like shoved into a locker is physical violence. It wasn't always like beaten up. I mean, I went home with a shoe print on my face. And you know, all sorts of things. And like, I was too unathletic, to do anything. I wasn't in any sports, was kind of isolated. And, my dad, super great guy and everything. He did judo, and I asked him about getting into judo and training me. And I was like, he didn't really want to. He was afraid I would get hurt. I was too small. So as an adult, I kind of did my own thing and started anyway. And like, sure enough, I have gotten hurt in martial arts, but, I wasn't even able to drive as an adult. I didn't have the coordination for that. Like, and I developed all that through, just the process of failing and repeating and getting better at jiu-jitsu. Right. So I've done some different things, but I credit pretty much all my success to, Brazilian jiu-jitsu. I've done very few common arts that I haven't done a little bit of. I've done a few years of kickboxing. I've done all sorts of little things. But jiu-jitsu really has helped with that body awareness, coordination. I saw my occupational therapist again years later. She retired. I paid her to do some tests again. And I did improve. You're not supposed to be able to improve your motor skills after you're like 5 or 6. I did improve, but I still was super low, but you can't tell anymore. So essentially I've got really good at faking it. But yeah, I'm 100% functional at everything now. And if I didn't tell you, I didn't talk about this until like around the time I finally got my black belt, which in BJJ that takes a long time often, even for normal people. I took especially long. But I didn't want a black belt with an asterisk, like, he's pretty good considering. Yeah. Right. So I didn't talk about any of this until afterwards. But there's very few things, going back to your questions, there's very few things that I'm aware of, at least, that gives you the ability to transform yourself in this way, mentally, physically. I mean, many sports, coach just doesn't even want you if you don't start with a lot of talent. So it's a combination of, like, there is the camaraderie, there is a team, but it's also the individual aspect. You're not bringing your team down. Nobody's riding the bench. Everybody can play, compete. Everybody can train. So yeah, it's totally different. Every sport or anything I tried to try before this was a negative experience. And while I got really beat up and even hurt some at the beginning, like, it was still always a way more positive experience than anywhere else. And it would, I mean, I have an engineering degree, and technically I own a software company now. So you could say that's valuable, but I would say my BJJ black belt to me is a more valuable accomplishment than every other accomplishment that I've made put together. So it's
Ryan, like, let me pause you for a second, man, because, dude, what a story! Like, dude, you're a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and you were also the kid who was 16 pounds in high school, the little guy that got picked on. Like, your dad wanted to protect you from injury, so he didn't want to put you in physical activity, and now you're sitting here with a black belt, dude. Like, that is such an inspirational story that I think, for me, it's like, oh, that's just a sport I didn't want to try. No, it drastically changed your life for you. Like, I'll play this because I always think this is funny, but for you, it really was.
It's worse. It's so much worse.
And you started with such a struggle, but you overcame it. Like, and tell me about what that story does when you're recruiting students into your business, when you're first getting started in the martial arts school.
So I'll tell you, like I said, up until recently, I didn't tell it. And because I was just so afraid of, some of you guys might not be familiar with this, but in school system, the way they do things now is they have these things called modifications. And basically, if you don't seem promising, rather than fixing the problem, it's like, hey, he just can't. So here, we're going to change the way things are scored so that he passes, right? So that everything is good. He can't write well enough to pass the whatever test, so he gets to use a typewriter. He can't.
That's not how it works. That's not how any of this works.
Yeah, exactly, right? That doesn't work. It doesn't work.
Yeah, well, it works for getting that letter at the end of your report card. Now, at the end, when you try to do stuff in real life, then all of a sudden, like, where's my modification? Somebody goes to attack you. It's like, wait, where's my modification? Where's my unfair handicap? Well, you don't get that anymore. So because I wanted to do this with my disadvantages from scratch, because that's the only way you're going to get somewhere. The only way to get past it is to kind of pretend it's not there. And I mean, people didn't know how bad it was, but everybody kind of, like, couldn't hide how unathletic and small I was. So, like, there's no way to make that a secret. Been trying for a long time. Tell you that doesn't work. But I didn't want to say things that are that extreme, because I didn't want my coach, Eddie Bravo. He's a famous jiu-jitsu coach. I actually traveled, different story, but I wasn't happy with what was local. So I traveled across the country to train with him. But I didn't want to get a black belt or any of my ranks or recognitions from Eddie based on, like, a modification. Not that there's any system for that. Not that he would have, but in the back of his head,
Now, if you know what you're worth, now go out and get what you're worth.
Yeah, exactly, Sly. That's what you're trying to say, right? Like, you knew you could do it. You knew you had it in you to accomplish it. It might take you longer. It might take more work for you, but you knew you were going to get it.
Right. So that's why I was, like, afraid to tell the story, because I was afraid if I said it, I would be judged by a different standard, and that I would basically get a black belt with an asterisk, which there would be no way to erase. That, like, it's based on, where he is. considering let's just give him a black belt. That's probably all he's capable of. So
but you didn't do that, man. You earned yours, right? How do you take that kind of like fear of sharing the story, fear of, being different, making that accomplishment as you making it happen, and then turning around and saying, now I'm going to start a school? Like, how does that work?
So I started a school before black belt. I don't necessarily recommend it, but I did. And the reason I did is I was traveling remotely I tried different places locally. I got hurt. It wasn't really the type of technique that was working for me. And I traveled across the country, and I started teaching for free at the university club I was at. I started one, and I taught there for, I think, 7 years, 6, 7, something like that, for free, while basically I would teach while going to regular school there. I would teach jiu-jitsu, and in the summertime, I would go over and train with Eddie. So when that got shut down, that they were getting rid of, PE was no longer required by the state of Texas. So that whole department got shut down. So we weren't going to have the mats or anything there anymore. So I opened a school at that point. I've been training and teaching a while. But I didn't have a black belt yet. And so I still wasn't really, I didn't know really anything about running a business. Really wasn't quite ready to start teaching jiu-jitsu. Really, like, not anything, but I had some students. I had a little bit of a following, and like most of them were also people that wouldn't so much fit in locally. So I just did it anyway. And it was a pretty painful process at the beginning. Because I had no idea, so I've kind of had entrepreneurial instincts my whole life. We were pretty poor. I was buying and selling on eBay when I was I believe 6. Wow. So you remember Beanie Babies, Pokemon cards, whatever.
Yeah.
I would flip all that stuff. I would sell them before eBay. I was selling them at shows. I was in first grade. I'd had the list of where those things would come in, front porch, whatever, Hallmark, because it was remarkable. You would buy them for $6 and they were going for 100 right then, right? Just
smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
Them off. Yeah. Send them off.
Yeah, so that's what I was doing. I've always done little stuff like that, but as far as really putting a business together, I mean, I've had little side hustles forever. And I kind of stopped near after graduating high school. I got a real job. It's okay. And I started thinking about it I'm making some money on all this stuff, but when you break it down hourly, I'm making less than minimum wage. So
hell no.
Exactly. Yeah, so all of a sudden, kind of like your intro said, yeah, this business stuff is great and all, but sometimes you're wait, is it really making sense? And the flip game wasn't, people making good money at it, and when I was 5, I was making great money at it. But once I could get a real job, it's I couldn't replace real job income with it. So I kind of quit doing that. I was going to college, I was working, and I was training. Now, and then I'm all of a sudden, okay, going to open a business again. Well, I've sold some things before. Put something on the internet. How hard could this be? And the answer is really, really hard. But eventually I started looking stuff up. I sought coaching different places, and I figured out systems for your business, marketing. I thought to do a Facebook ad, you just fill out the little boxes and write something, and people come and buy your thing, right? Show me the money!
That's what we're hoping for, right? That's what we're hoping for. Look, at the end of the day, that's the thing about building your business is you don't oftentimes know what you're doing when you first get started. You develop a lot of these skills out of necessity because you're look, I need to get more customers in the door. And you ask yourself that question, how do I do that? And so you start finding different ways, and Facebook ads is one of those ways. Creating a podcast is one of those ways, right? Being a guest on podcasts is another one of those ways. Creating content for your social media. How do you get your eyes in front of more people? And then as you start getting people in the door, you start to realize other problems. Wait, how do I actually bill them? What's the invoicing? Where do I keep their data? Everything starts to get involved when you start a business. But you did something that a lot of people don't do is You did it. You took the action and you said, I'm going to figure it out as I go. Everybody else tries to figure things out and never actually does the thing. So they always look back and they're like, man, I wish I would have, should have, could have. You did.
Yeah, I definitely did the fire, ready, aim with that. And it's because there's different businesses that I've heard people talk about. This one was definitely a passion-based business in that I literally wanted to do this even if I didn't get paid. Because remember, I was already doing it for free. I was doing it. The reason I started my school then, I'd been thinking for a long time I wanted to actually do it for money eventually for a career. But at that time, I was like, yeah, probably not ready. But I was teaching anyway. So I was teaching for free at a university club. Anyway, so I for sure wanted to do it. And that's one thing that gave me the patience, because the first 2 years of my business, we didn't really make any money. So the first year, I think we lost, not counting the original investments and mats, just forget the original investments, which is significant, but just the monthly, keeping up with the rent, utilities, fees. We were right under break even first year. Second year, we were right over break even. That's with paying myself zero, though. If I pay myself like $2 an hour, we would be way under. But around, I think it's around on the third year, we really started, because I was starting to look into different business strategies, different things like that. And customer acquisition, different ways to get customers in the door, and but basically get leads. But then how do you get those leads and get them to schedule an appointment? Then how do you get that appointment to show up? And then how do you get that appointment to sign? Whether before it was like, I didn't even try to do anything like that. I was like, the first Facebook ad I ever did was like really early on, before I knew what I was doing. I think I just listed my phone number on there.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
Yeah, there is a chance, but it's a slim chance. And so instead, in other words, I wasn't even acquiring leads. So Facebook should have kicked me back an error message or something. But Zuckerberg was like, your money's as good as anybody else's. I'll take it.
Thanks for trying there, buddy. I mean, hey,
Losers always whine about their best.
Exactly, Sean. We always whine about our best, man. All right, so you finally figure it out. You start in year 3 becoming like, okay, I'm actually learning how to run my business. I'm learning the skills necessary. In other words, you're taking the same disciplines that you learned in martial arts, where you just take the beating. You learn, you take the beating. What else did you learn in that beating? Do it again. Do it better. Do it again. Do it better. Year 3, you start making money. You start making some changes. What was the big thing, that aha moment?
Like I said, the idea that I'm trying to segment like that there's these different percentages that I'm trying to acquire leads. How many leads do I need to get one appointment? How many appointments do I need to get one appointment to show up? How many appointments I need to get to show up to get one person to sign? And then look at all those percentages and how each one of those, there's different things we can do to improve. And that's really instead of seeing it as one thing, it's like 4 things now.
60% of the time, it works every time.
Damn right it does.
Yeah. So, that was a big difference. And I figured out, just kind of trial and error, a combination of that and seeing different coaching methods, just seeing what's out there, didn't all the way reinvent the wheel, and got methods to be able to get these leads. And I mean, fast forward, when all the other schools, not all of them, but a whole lot of other schools went bankrupt when COVID, after it ended and we could reopen, we put our student base, we lost a lot of members. People had to move, all sorts of stuff. And we put everybody back in like 3 months, because I know how to generate new business. Now, that said, I mean, you never replace your old buddies and training partners or whatever. But as far as the business not going under, at least we're not going to drown. I mean, it went from 0, so the first year was probably losing money. I would say, not counting original investment, I'd have to go look at the books. We probably minus $1,000 or so for the year. Second year, I'm probably made about $2,000 for the year. Good job, me. Third year, I'd made about 60 grand.
Nice.
So nothing like crazy, but eventually, like, hey, but that's a real income.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of it for me was the patience to not give up before I got to that point. If I knew how to do it, like if I was to reopen, which I almost had to after COVID, I mean, I retained some people. It's more learning the product. Now that I know how to do it, it wouldn't be that painful again.
So that was the painful struggle, but the great learning process that you had in doing your own martial arts school, right? But then you stumbled across, this systematic way of growing your business was something that you could all of a sudden replicate, right? Like it was like, okay, I'm seeing success with this. What was that next step that you ended up doing?
Well, so the next step was also kind of the in between for the next step, at least, was coincidental because people were just I had friends that would ask me for help with like, hey, I hear you do okay with Facebook ads, Google ads, these different things. And but what nobody wants to hear about is like the whole process, or at least first they wanted like, hey, send me out, but without what I finally like a Facebook ad, but without the process to follow up with these leads, without the process
It's a waste of money.
It's maybe when Facebook used to be a lot cheaper, maybe you could just pure numbers, shove it through and make money, but it's really hard nowadays without a good systems. I mean, you can go get some leads in, but it's like, it's too expensive. It's like, well, the lead isn't that expensive. Even an expensive lead. I mean, if you're paying $50 a lead, that sounds expensive. But I mean, you can potentially get a lifetime value of a student, maybe a couple of grand. All right.
Yeah.
So how much does it cost me to acquire a student? A couple $100
Exactly.
Lifetime value, couple grand. First month value, close to what I'm investing. So cool.
That's a break-even funnel, man. And I don't think people understand in marketing, that's a win. I mean, the idea is to put money in ad spend and then get money out in conversion. And if you can find a funnel that breaks even where your ad spend is the same as your output, that's a winning funnel. Anything on the positive side of that, how much money do you want to put in your ad spend? Like that's the ideal process that you nailed down.
Yeah, it's and that's something because a lot of people if they're not making way more money than they're putting in, like immediately, people are disheartened with it. But you said it, like it's I've heard before, all you need is like a break-even funnel to become a millionaire. Well, the stipulation here is those people might be talking about a nationwide audience, and I will say that it caps out locally, right? So that eventually, because I've tried to scale beyond a certain point, that above X amount of leads per month, what starts to happen is I start paying exponentially more for each one. So in other words, it's not infinitely scalable, that we got to kind of dial off. Right there. So because it's local, right? Because I need people within 8 miles. So the number of impressions, like people seeing ads like more than like 5 times, you can track that in Facebook, and for Google ads, it's even worse because how many people if there's 15 people searching for BJJ Beaumont this month, like there's just 15, right?
That's it. Yeah.
So I can advertise to all 15 of those people, but that's it. So there's a set number. But within that, I keep telling these BJJ school owners that it really is one of because I've played with, just to learn more about marketing, I played with affiliate marketing, played with these little different things. And, comparatively, you can almost never make, what I'm talking about. You can almost never make an ad like that work, but almost every BJJ school can. Now, they can't infinitely scale it. But most of them, they can. It's not that hard to build a break-even funnel in BJJ. Easier than it. Maybe I'm just biased because I've done it, but easier than any other business that I've seen is that you can more or less break even as long as before the credit card bill is due, you can get the money back on these ads, and from there, it's this student is going to pay you for how much longer. You don't know, but if you got a great school, longer than 1 month, that's for sure.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
a
for
long
sure.
time.
That's for sure. That's for sure. I mean, you're looking at numbers and metrics that a lot of business owners don't even realize exist. I mean, the lifetime value of a client, that's a metric that I mean, how do you calculate that? How do I know what the lifetime value is? What about my click-through rate? What about what percentage of the views or people are watching the video? 75% of the video, 25%. Like, there's so many different things that you can look at in the data that will help you analyze how to adjust your ad and how to adjust your targeting or how to adjust your process. Are they dropping off when they get to your landing page? Are they dropping off after, the first text message or email? I mean, so many different things that you can look at. And it sounds to me like, at least in the BJJ space, like you have that nailed and you've been helping other people do that successfully. I mean, that to me is cool. What about Red Belt software?
So eventually what I wanted to build was, so there's different softwares, and so there's super generic softwares like something like Salesforce, CRMs like that. And then in the industry, there's some other softwares, and nobody really had exactly what I wanted for my process. So what I started looking into was, could I build a more perfect solution, a CRM built for this business model? So now I finally figured out what systems I want to use. Can I get a CRM to match? And I mean, there's different CRMs you can try and customize. There's plugins, there's this, there's that. But I couldn't find exactly what I wanted out there. So we started building it, and I've been building it for 2.5 years. This year we went into beta, and we're almost out of beta now. We've got 20 paying customers right now. Most of them are from my association, 10th Planet, and people I know and stuff. And we're starting to get referrals and a couple of people that I don't know. And I haven't really even been too much pushing that on the outside, because I've been more perfecting it, making sure it's really quality. And I'm kind of at that point right now where now we're kind of going public to the world with that. And it's basically the processes. So I talked about kind of my breakthrough moment was understanding that it's not just leads, right? What do you do with them? The show rate. So one thing. So yes, our software builds people, but a lot of softwares build people. What it actually helps is that kind of pipeline that we're talking about. It helps you measure those steps, and it helps you with each one of those steps with email automations, text automations,
Yes.
as far as from the life from a lead till it has an appointment, getting that appointment to show. We have appointment calendar, all that in there. And then following up if that appointment didn't sign, if they did sign, if their payments aren't going through, following up with that, like the entire life cycle of the client, optimized through all means. Like our software does phone calls, like you can accept a phone call through it. You can tell so if an incoming phone call comes in, you can say, do I want to forward it to 3 different employees? Do I want to do different things at different times with it? At noon to 1, is it going to go to a certain place? Is it going to go to voicemail there? When a call goes in, it automatically makes a lead there. So that's a new lead. That phone number is a lead. So everything having to do with the business and the different ways the leads come in. None of the other CRMs really did that. And to an extent, I'm cutting it short by saying it's a CRM, because we do a lot of stuff that's outside a normal CRM. But really, it's built to be kind of an all-in-one software for at least my processes and the processes that I recommend for a martial arts school.
I gave it a 10. A 10.
I give it a 10. All right, man. Brian, dude, your story itself is amazing. That you were just your own struggle and your own inspiration that BJJ had in your life And then on top of that, how you were able to build a school, the persistence that you had, the dedication, the discipline to make it happen, and then ultimately write your own software so that other people can benefit from that struggle and everything that you learned all along the way. So if people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
So if you go to redbeltsoftware.com, you can set up an appointment to talk to me or my team. I'm also on social media. I'm Brian Barncat Debes on Instagram. I'm on Facebook at Brian Debes. Apparently, I'm at BrianDebes.5. I didn't even know that, but I guess I am.
And then email?
Yeah, Brian D at redbeltsoftware.com.
Perfect. All right, Brian, dude. Ladies and gents, I mean, check that out. If you're in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu space and you're looking for that software, it's really easy to find. Go to redbeltsoftware.com, redbeltsoftware.com. It's scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Brian, dude, your story's been epic, man. I got one last question for you. At the beginning, I told you we were going to put together a show that was fun, that had you talking about your business in the best light possible. We love video testimonials. So my question to you is, what was your experience like on the Business Bros podcast?
Man, it was great. This is a great podcast. Everything was super fun. Really appreciate you, man.
Of course, my brother. All right, ladies and gents, thank you very much. We'll see you guys again mañana. Well, actually on Monday. Peace. And we're out.
It's over. Go home.
Is your business in need of marketing? Try starting a podcast. But not just any podcast. Podcast like a pro. We can show you how to take your business from being invisible to becoming a brand people trust. Go to www.businessbros.biz